Welcome again to the Old Principal. I am the Old Principal. 我就是老校长. And we're going to actually tell another story. A lot of my own stories here, but this one is a very interesting one. This will be lesson number 216, Learning to Drive. 学习驾驶汽车. Okay, that little boy looks happy, like, whoa, I'm going to learn to drive. Now I'm going to tell my own personal experience. But before we do, let's listen to the story.
Story 216, Learning to Drive. When I was 14, I asked my father to teach me how to drive a car. In America, there are not very many driving schools because most parents teach their own children. The only difficulty was that I was too young. So the initial attempts at driving were with the old pickup truck out behind our house or out on the private island my father owned. As long as I stayed off of the public roads, I could practice my driving. One day, while I was still in the beginning stages of learning, my uncle asked me to drive a huge dump truck from the sand and gravel plant to the shop. The good news was that it was legal because Dad owned the island. The bad news was I was so small that I could hardly push in the clutch. I never did shift gears. I just used first gear and slowly drove up to the shop. At the age of 15, I took a written driver's license exam and was issued a learner's permit. That meant I could drive anywhere on public roads as long as there was a legally licensed driver sitting beside me. Then a couple of days after my 16th birthday, I went to take my driver's test. The scariest part of the exam was the road test. A police examiner joined me in the car, just the two of us. He asked me to drive around the city. He observed my ability under a number of different situations. I was very nervous. Upon our return, the officer sat quietly for a few moments and then began telling me the mistakes I made. Finally, about when I was sure I had flunked, he said, "You passed with a score of 80%. I was really happy. Later on, I learned that nobody is given 100% on the road test because the officers didn't want anybody to be overconfident."
Okay, welcome back. Here we go. Learning to drive, lesson number 216. When I was 14 years old, I asked my father to teach me how to drive a car. Okay, when I was 14 years old. Some people in America on farms, 他们在大的农场, some children learn to drive when they're 8, 9, 10 years old. But already 14 years old is quite young to drive. So I asked my father to teach me how to drive. Going on. In America, there are not very many driving schools because most parents teach their own children. In America, there are not very many driving schools. Now, when I go to foreign countries like Taiwan and Hong Kong and so on, 他们有驾驶学校. But in America, there are no of that. Actually, if you really want to know, that nowadays it is part of the curriculum of high schools. 中学课程就是包括驾驶车了. It's called driving or driver's education. Okay, 驾驶者的教育. Is that right? Driver's education. Well, whatever. The only difficulty was that I was too young. I wanted to drive, but I was too young. Going on. So the initial attempts of driving were with an old pickup truck out behind our house, or out on the private island my father owns. Now, several different things here. I was too young. How old was I? I was 14 years old. So my initial, okay, 起初我开始的尝试, my first attempts, my first driving were with an old pickup. Actually, I should have gotten a picture of a 1949 Ford. It was a 1949 Ford. 1949年的这个红色的福特小卡车。In 1949, that was a real hard vehicle to drive. And I'll explain, maybe if I have time, I'll explain why it was so difficult. But my first driving was with this old pickup out behind our house. So we had a little bit of land behind our house, so I would drive up here, turn around, drive back, up, back, up, back. But I also could drive out on 一条河的一个小岛上。My father owned part of an island. 一部分这个小岛是我爸爸的。So out on this island, I could drive. Why? Because we owned the land. It was our land. 是我们的地. So nobody cared about that. The government does not care. 他不管 if you drive on your own private land. It's only on the public places, 公共地方, that the government is concerned about. So the initial attempts of driving were with an old pickup truck. A pickup truck is 这个小卡车 out behind our house or on a private island my father owned. Going on. As long as I stayed off the public roads, 我不在这个公路上开的话, I could practice my driving. 我就可以学习这个开车驾驶车子. One day, while I was still in the beginning stages of learning, okay, I was in the beginning stages, so at the very first stages, you're learning different things. When I was learning, the early stages, 比较早一点, my uncle asked me to drive a huge dump truck, okay, a very huge dump truck. I don't know how to say dump truck, 翻斗车. You know what a big truck, it has a big box on it, you know, this big box on it, and you fill up the box and it goes somewhere, and then he backs up and it dumps the rocks or sand or whatever is in it. That's called a dump truck. And my dad had several dump trucks. So my uncle, 我的舅舅, asked me, he worked for my father, he asked me to drive a huge, 非常非常大的一个翻斗车, dump truck, from the sand and gravel plant to the shop. Okay, so we had a 沙石工厂, and then we had a shop. Now, What is a shop? A shop is, you could say, 修理部. It's a big building, and that's where they repaired all of the equipment. So 修理部, and it was a big building. So my uncle said, please drive this big dump truck up to the shop. Going on. The good news was that it was legal. Of course, 这个是合法的 because we owned the land. That was our land. So I could do anything I wanted to. Because Dad owned the island. 这个小岛是我爸爸的. Actually, there was a part of it that belonged to somebody else, but it was private land, 是私立的地. The bad news, 这个是好消息. I could do it. My uncle asked me to do it. The bad news was that I was so small, 我这么小, that I could hardly push in the clutch. 我几乎很难把这个离合器踏下去. Okay, a clutch. Nowadays, we don't do much with clutches, but big trucks have a clutch, 离合器. And I could hardly 几乎把这个踏下去 push in. Okay, go ahead. I never did shift gears. I just used the first gear and slowly drove up to the shop. I never did shift gears. That first time, at least, I never did shift gears. Why? Because, well, it was too hard to shift. Okay, 我没有变档. Why? Because I was too small. I could hardly push in the clutch. And so I just used first gear, 第一档. And 第一档 we call grandmother, granny, which is very slow. And I drove slowly up to the shop. 这个到修理部. At the age of 15, I took a written driver's license. Okay, at the age of 15. So this all happened when I was 14. Now I am 15 years old, and we can take a driver's license test. First, be sure, okay? The written tests. This is 考驾驶执照. Okay, driver's examination is a test. Exam is a test. 考试. And they issued 考上的话, this 笔试. Okay, a learner's permit. A learner's permit. What is a learner's permit? 学习执照. This means this is a special permit. It's a license. 是一个驾驶执照其中之一. It's a 学习执照. It is a learner's permit. So now, at the age of 15, I have a learner's permit. By the way, I found out when I got married, 我结婚的时候, that my wife also learned to drive when she was 15, 15岁的时候. Go ahead. That meant I could drive anywhere on public roads as long as there was a legally licensed driver sitting beside me. Okay, what does that mean? That means that I could drive anywhere on public roads as long as there was a legally licensed. So, 我现在可以在 public roads, 公路, okay? As long as 只要, okay? 只要 as long as 只要有 as long as 只要有 good English word 只要有 and then what is it? A legally licensed driver sitting beside me. 合法有执照的人是开车子啊 sitting beside me. Why? Because if there was any problem, that we could solve the problem. Why? Because he was sitting beside me. Now, the interesting thing was that at that time, when I was young, and when this was, 50 years ago, okay, 54 years ago, 55 years ago, when I was using the learner's permit, the next year, when I was 16 years old, 16岁的时候我考上那个执照。In those days, 我弟弟比我小1岁. So when he passed his 15th year, he took the test. So at 16, 因为我是合法有驾驶执照, I could sit beside my brother who was 15. Now, trust me, nowadays that's not true. You have to be at least 18. But in those days, 那时候那个时代, 16-year-old could sit beside a 15-year-old. Okay? Then a couple days after my 16th birthday, 16岁生日过了几天, I went to take my driver's test. Now this is 这个路考, okay? I already passed the one test. Now I take the next test going on. The scariest part of the exam was the road test. I guess I had to take the written test again, but then it was the road test. This was very, very difficult. Okay, the police examiner joined me in the car, just the two of us. Okay, 那个检察官呢，这个 he is the examiner. He's the one that's going to give the test. He is a policeman. 他也是警察. Okay, and so he is sitting there beside me. Okay, sitting there. I suppose if I had a problem 我出事情的时候 he could help, but I don't know if he could. He'd probably close his eyes or yell or something. This was scary. 非常可怕，非常可怕，紧张的要命。Even at my age now, even when I go to take a test, if I have to take a test, 我的心脏还是会蹦蹦跳. Okay, now, he asked me to drive around the city. So I'm driving around this city. He observed my ability under a number of different situations. I was very nervous. He asked me to drive around the city. So fortunately, 幸亏 I knew the city, I knew the roads, I could go around the city. Okay, So, yeah, pretty good. I knew the city, even though I was nervous. 非常紧张啊. Okay, he observed my ability under a number of different situations. 在不同的情况之下，他观察我的能力。So, and whatever that you want to say is, it was very nerve-wracking. It made me very nervous. Going on. Upon our return, the officer sat quietly for a few minutes and then began telling me the mistakes I made. This has happened several times in my life, so I'm very, very typical. Of course, this police examiner, he sees many, many different people. And some are so nervous they make mistakes. Fortunately, let's see what he says. It says he sat quietly for a few moments. Actually, he was writing on a sheet of paper. Okay? He sat quietly writing a few things. And then he started to tell me all of my mistakes. He began telling me the mistakes that I made. 我所有的错误. Okay? So what do? You don't do anything. You just sit there and you wonder, will he ever quit there? Then finally, 最后, about when I was sure that I flunked, 不通过. To flunk a test is 考试不通过, okay? Yeah, when I thought that I was 肯定我不通过, okay? He said, you passed with a score of 80%. Oh, I was so happy. 你通过, you passed with 80%, 80%. And I was one happy person, for sure. Going on. Later on, I learned that nobody is given 100% on the road test, ever. Nobody gets 100%. He will never give anyone 100%. Even if you are perfect, and nobody is perfect, but even if you're perfect, he would still find a mistake. So what is the advantage of not telling you that you did well? Nobody is given 100%. 从来没有人是100%. On the road, 这个是路考. No, 这个必考是没有问题. Because it's just something that you do in your brain. But on the 路考, when you're out driving, it's nobody gets 100% because the officers don't want anybody to become overconfident. What does it mean to become overconfident? 不要太自信. Don't feel that you or believe that you are so good. Always be cautious. You don't want to become overconfident. You don't want to become proud, 骄傲. Okay? These he wants to avoid. So, that's the story of what it was like when I took my test. For my wife, it was similar. Sometimes you pass the written test, but don't pass the road test. In fact, one of the interesting things on the road test, 这个路考, the first thing you have to do is 停车. You have to show that the officer, whether or not you know how to 停车. It's called parallel parking. So what you do is you drive here up to the car and then you back in like this. This is called parallel parking. In fact, if you don't pass parallel parking, then you cannot take the test. You first do the parallel parking. If you pass the parallel parking, then you can take the test. So, and I didn't say this in the story, but the fact is that it's pretty difficult. It's pretty parallel parking. You got to be just right. Nowadays it seems simple, but in those days it was not so simple. So, do you have a driver's license? I'm sure that many of the people that are watching this lesson has their driver's license. Now, if you do, then you could tell me your story. There is a way to tell the story. You could write an email message to me, 用电脑发给我. The Old Principal, 我就是老校长, The Old Principal at gmail.com. Or you could write to our website. Not write, but look at our website, www.theoldprinciple.org. Hey, it's been great being here with you and telling you, in this case, a little bit of my story, and I look forward to seeing you next time.